Large diameter roll tubes make the whole project accessible for younger children. So children as young as in early years, reception, year one, and anybody above that as well, of course, can can do can make these large diameter roll tubes. Large diameter simply because we use a rolling rod called a mandrel, which is a greater diameter than the normal um, roll tubes that I've featured before. So these are a bit more squashy, but they're easier to hold in your hand, especially for a younger child. Now, diameter wise, it happens to say it on the pipe here. Diameter wise, this is 21.5 millimeters, and it sounds really special, that, but of course, this is just water waste pipe. Water waste pipe discarded and thrown in skips by plumbers an awful lot at the end of a job, but it's extremely useful for rolling these tubes. Now this is the overview, so we'll not go into exactly how to make the tubes. Same technique as already on the channel, but we'll look at it in detail for small hands a little bit later in the next page. So what you need: sticky tape, not necessarily on one of these reels, but it makes it easier when you're demonstrating things. But access to tape, perhaps a pair of scissors, and then paper. And this is just recycled paper that I've cut down. You can use paper any size, it just depends on what size the mandrel is for rolling them, the plastic rolling rod. So once you've rolled a rod, basically, now remember, the next vid's going to show this in detail. It's very quick to do. One bit of tape will secure it. Rod, tube finished. But you know, it's a bit cleverer than that when you look in the detail. And if you're going to get small children to do it, you've got to seriously think about it. Right, this is an overview, so I'm going to show you what sort of things you can make. Well, if you can make one tube, you can make lots of tubes. You can make different size tubes. All right. So if you can make all these, they're your building blocks for all sorts of fabulous structures, and then beyond that, possibly mechanisms. Let's have a look at a few. If you were to take a set of these tubes and then simply wrap a sheet of paper around them, then I think it's obvious, isn't it? The sheet of paper would enclose them. Then if you sticky tape it together, you've got maybe 4 tubes all in sort of a raft. Here we are, look. So this is much longer, and a sheet of A4 paper, they've been rolled around, and now you've got a complete raft of actually that looks like A3, is it? No, it's A4, I think. You've got a complete raft, and the tubes inside are not stuck together. They've just been rolled up like a Christmas present, sticky tape along the edges, and now it's a very strong sort of shape for a deck, a bridge, a panel on the side of a building. It's all sorts of different things. So start simple, tubes, and join them together in all sorts of ways to make amazing structures. Let's move on to another one. Well, if you were to take 4 of those little tubes, you can make them into a frame, sticky tape the corners, so that's what I've done there, sticky tape the corners into a frame. I've actually added lots of extra tape on the ends of these afterwards, beyond, just to make this little model last a bit longer. I mean, in small children's hands, they can only have a very short life, I know, but you can eventually make models which they do last an awful long time. And fantastic. Here, let's go to the next one. What could this be? Well, one, we just put a piece of card. It's a picture frame. So there's your first little project. A very, very simple picture frame made from some roll tubes, different size picture frames, all sorts of things. Put some little characters in there, make a little diorama perhaps with some characters at the front and some characters at the back. And that's a great start. 4 tubes in a frame, add some card, there's the first thing to take home. Let's move on from that. Let's concentrate on this idea. What if you were to combine that idea there with using a card base? So if you've got a piece of card and you can sticky tape the tubes onto the card, then you can create a frame, and now you can use the sort of raft of tubes. There it is there, the raft of tubes, different length this time, and you can create a shelter. So a shelter's a great one. You never know how they're going to turn out when the children make them. They come up with their own designs, of course. So simple beginnings, there's a shelter. What about starting with a unit like this, like triangles? Well, triangles are flat shape, perhaps we could combine them together and make 3D shapes, beginning to look like the sort of pyramid stage at Glastonbury there. Maybe we could put on an event, put a stage floor there and put an event on inside. Moving on, there's the little raft idea again. There's one raft there, there's another raft there, and this has got the beginnings of a house. Perhaps the triangles could form the roof space of the house. Simple as that. Fabulous. Next one. Card boxes are great because the inside lid of a card box can be the starting point for all sorts of towers and things. And with this particular one, can you see I've cut these little V's? The idea with the V's is they simply help you to position things prior to sticking them down. So the V lets you rest something in it. So what could this be? I'm thinking about this being some sort of a climbing frame in a playground, ropes hanging down from it. Perhaps another one of these towers across there, and then a great big beam when you climb between it. Climbing frames are fabulous for these tube structures. Moving on, that idea of making the raft. Well, you could make a more three-dimensional shape, couldn't you? And again, these are all freestanding, look, so they all come out. So you can make all sorts of amazing tube structures just using wrapped up paper roll tubes. Bring some colour into it. Roll tubes, these aren't tubes, but the prisms, and they make a good deck as well. So there's three separate. I mean, it's all about making the same unit repeatedly. And once you can do that, it's like bricks building a house. Put them together in all sorts of different combinations. If you had a base, and this base is perforated full of holes, and it's made of plastic modelling foam, it's packaging foam from computers and stuff, but not polystyrene, definitely not that. This is actually polyethylene, and it make the holes in it. I can show you how to do that in another vid. Pop the tubes in, all those tubes can come back out again and be rearranged, and now you've got the possibility of making what? A Celtic roundhouse, perhaps? A dwelling of some sort. And moving on, well, it's not just structures we can make. We can combine wheels and axles and then use the tubes. So that's a roll tube. Use the tubes in connection with a mechanism, a wheel, and now we've got. I love these. These were called, or still are called, trundle toys. So trundle toys are a fabulous way to make fun movement in a toy. So as you push it along, I've put some extra bits of card sticking out of the wheel, and it looks like the sort of feet are running round. Combine that with a character and you've made a lovely little moving character. And there's another variation on that. Perhaps I could make vehicles out of these things. So there's two-wheeled version of it there. Well, wheels aren't the only thing that count as mechanisms. Levers count as mechanisms, don't they? So there's our lever there. There's a little wooden dowel and another wooden dowel with a string. There's a long roll tube and a short roll tube, and that fits into a foam base. So there it goes. Stand it up. Let's have a look. I'll wind that side, wind it from this side. And there's our crane. So mechanisms as well are within the bounds of these straightforward, very simple paper roll tubes. Right, more to see in the next vid.